This video has been sponsored by War Thunder. The US Army is reorganizing all its infantry and some of its striker and armored brigade combat teams into mobile BCTs mounted on the infantry squad vehicle. In this series, I'm going to take you through the latest in MBCT organization and equipment. Last episode, I talked about the MBCT overall, how it's different from the IBCT, and a detailed look at the new rifle company down to the squad level. Today, I'm covering the Multifunctional Reconnaissance Company, arguably the most famous type of unit to come out of the MBCT. You've been asking me for it for over a year. I'm talking about the MFRC's purpose with a tactical vignette of how it could be used during a brigade movement to contact, its detailed organization and proposed equipment, and how it's different from the Cav squadron it replaces, with some historical context. If you only care about infantry battalions, this will also cover the subunits of the MFRC that are configured to be attached directly to battalions. We'll get into everything about these companies in a minute, but first, you can complete your own kill chain in War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is available now for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. You'll get to own and fight with up to 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations from the 1920s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. It's not an exaggeration to say there isn't anything else like it. My community already has a ton of avid players, and if they enjoy it, I bet you will too. Some of my best gaming memories were bomber boxing with Wellingtons with my Kiwi friends back in 2013, and they just keep adding to it. It's got the graphics, it's got an online community of over 95 million, and it's got incredibly detailed models with all the niche combat vehicles you could ask for. With such variety in vehicle types, time periods, and militaries, it suits any fan of military history. Play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices by using my links in the pinned comment and video description. New and returning players on PC and consoles that haven't played in the last 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account time. It's available for a limited time only, so be quick. Quite a bit has come out since the 101st Airborne's original experimentation. I'm not going to repeat episode 1, but the short of it is that infantry brigade combat teams used to have a Cav squadron dedicated to the reconnaissance and security mission. Each consisted of an HQ and HQ troop, 2 motorized troops with Humvees mounting tow missiles, HMGs, and Mark 19s but with limited dismounts, and 1 manned by infantrymen for infiltration and reconnaissance in complex terrain. The IBCT also had a military intelligence company that included a tactical UAS platoon serving RQ-7 Bravo Shadows and an electromagnetic warfare platoon. These 3 disciplines plus a new over-the-horizon missile capability are being rolled into this new multifunctional reconnaissance company. As it stands, the MFRC is slated to consist of a company headquarters, reconnaissance platoon, effects platoon, electromagnetic warfare platoon, and tactical UAS platoon. Recon and effects are configured mainly to act as hunter and killer for the brigade, but the EW and TUAS platoons have 2 roles: supporting the brigade-level RNS mission and providing direct support teams to the infantry battalions. In terms of sustainment, unlike the old Cav squadron, which was big enough to have a forward support company attached to it from the brigade support battalion, the MFRC is supported by the general support companies of the light support battalion. It has 1 senior medic and 2 medics organic to its company HQ though, as it has no higher battalion medical platoon to pull from. Under the US Army's system of regimental lineages, it was announced in 2025 that in the regular Army, these companies will be separate lettered companies carrying the lineages of the 25th Infantry, 51st Infantry, and 551st Infantry regiments, and 555th Infantry Battalion, an interesting parent battalion carrying the lineage of the all-black smoke jumpers. They invoke the lineages of paratroopers, long-range surveillance units, and even bicycle troops of the 19th century. Before I get into the detailed organization of each platoon and the scenario, I want to address the elephant in the room. The MFRC is not a Cav squadron. Yes, I know. Shocking. When the direct support elements of the MFRC have been parceled out to the infantry battalions, the brigade is basically left with one recon platoon, more like the LURSs than Cav, one platoon focused on direct fire, and one section of surveillance UAS. Although, to be fair, in terms of type and number of aircraft, it's similar to the old Shadow platoon. Leaving the different capabilities aside, because tows on Humvees just don't fit the vibes of the era we're in, one recon platoon cannot do the work of a whole Cav squadron. Purely from a covering ground perspective, the laws of matter mean an MFRC is probably not going to be able to observe every named area of interest or answer every priority intelligence requirement a brigade has. Further, the recon platoon is not configured to conduct the security mission beyond providing early warning. It can harass enemy forces and destroy very small elements by ambush, but under current guidelines, much of the counter-reconnaissance role is left to the infantry battalions and their multi-purpose companies. The MFRC has a more LURS style to it, disrupting the enemy by targeting C2 nodes, enemy reserves, and logistical assets with precision fires. They can conduct limited strikes with their own effects platoon, direct the use of joint fires or long-range field artillery, or conduct a target handover with adjacent units. Divisions are getting HIMARS, so they'll at least have the range to take advantage of some long-range infiltration. Regardless though, the brigade's conventional recon and security requirements aren't going away. If anything, in the age of drones, they've only gotten more demanding. Infantry battalions will have to fill the gap of the Cav squadron to establish the brigade's security zone, or put something between the enemy and the brigade's main effort battalions. They could be augmented with MFRC recon squads, but overall, infantry battalions will need to put a greater emphasis on the R&S mission than they have in their most recent era. And you know what? That's not out of place from a historical perspective. Infantry brigades and regiments did not generally have large recon and security units. During World War II and through the 1950s, infantry regiments just had their intelligence and a recon platoon. After brigadification in the early 1960s, practically nothing permanent. It went straight from the battalion's scout platoon to the Div Cav with no middle tier. Of course, Cav troops would often be task organized from the divisional Cav squadron to the brigades depending on the time period, and in Vietnam, separate brigades like divisions could have LRP or Ranger units attached to them. As it stands though, there's no Div Cav. Armor and mechanized brigades later got a Humvee-mounted brigade recon troop under the Force 21 reform of the late 90s and early 2000s, but light brigades did not. Brigade RSTA squadrons, as they were called, didn't come until brigade combat teams became the unit of action in the mid-2000s. The army of the time wanted 4 BCTs per division, so each infantry and heavy BCT would only have 2 maneuver battalions, but an additional cavalry squadron. The decision was at least partially a compensation, and if they're undoing modularity in every other way, then going back to one company makes as much sense as anything else, especially in the midst of an unkind manning situation. This does mean the brigade will have to go back to the old way of doing things though. Unlike a Cav squadron, the MFRC doesn't have a staff or a lieutenant colonel who, as chief of reconnaissance, is a subject matter expert on the enemy's recon and counter-recon capabilities. The Brigade HQ will be fully responsible for the planning and employment of reconnaissance assets, and won't have a battalion-sized HQ solely responsible for collecting and reporting intelligence or delaying the enemy. Infantry battalions likewise will rely more heavily on their subunits sending in reports from across the battlefield to build situational awareness, as opposed to a single Cav squadron HQ feeding them one consolidated picture. At any given moment, a rifle company may be the unit best positioned to answer the brigade commander's priority intelligence requirements within the time frame required, and especially with the threat of UAS or drones, any movement could be a reconnaissance movement. Recon and security is a doctrinal competency of infantry units, and infantry go to the recon and surveillance leaders course all the time. Long-range surveillance or LURS units, when they existed, were notably manned by infantrymen rather than Cav scouts, as were battalion snipers who are mostly an intelligence gathering asset. But it's a question of reprioritizing training time away from raids and assaults to things like patrolling and reporting. Stuff as small as infantrymen and rifle companies knowing what to look for when piloting a quadcopter, and UAS training to maneuver units is one of the functions of the MFRC. With all that said though, I'd still like a light Div Cav, or Div LURSs, or Div something. Just after old yellering all the Cav scouts in the light world, and as far as I know no solid concept for one existing, might have to give it another generation. Now with that out of the way though, let's talk organization. First, the MFRC Recon Platoon is very similar to the IBCT's Dismounted Scout Platoon, although now mounted on the ISV. The basic unit is the Recon Squad, which consists of 8 personnel as previously, although with a slightly different mix of personnel. These consist of 1 squad leader, 1 radio telephone operator, and 2 3-man scout teams, each with a team leader and 2 scouts. They're all mounted in 1 9-seater infantry squad vehicle though. Each Recon platoon consists of 3 of these squads, with a small platoon HQ consisting of a platoon leader, platoon sergeant, and a radio telephone operator. It's likely that 1 medic will be attached from the company headquarters. Old Charlie troops would have 1 forward observation pair attached to each scout platoon as well. I haven't seen it explicitly stated, although I'm sure this requirement won't go away. In terms of major equipment, each squad is intended to be equipped with 2 Javelin anti-tank guided missile systems, 1 short-range Recon UAS, the drone used at the rifle platoon level, and 1 soldier-borne sensor, such as the Black Hornet Micro UAS. Sniper sections are being disbanded across the board to resource this reorganization, but infantry are still going to be qualified as snipers. So instead of a troop-level sniper section with 2 3-man teams, it's likely going to actually be just 4 to 6 infantry scouts per platoon qualified as snipers as an additional duty. One of the jobs of the Recon platoon is feeding targeting information to a new effects platoon. Its purpose is to deliver precision fire against a range of targets including armored vehicles, fixed sites, or enemy UAS and loitering munitions teams. Basically, it's the killer of the hunter-killer team. The platoon consists of 1 platoon HQ and 2 effects squads. The vehicle count is a little inconsistent, and there are clerical errors in the current guidelines, so I wouldn't get too attached to the exact variant prescribed at this stage, but it's resourced to have 2 ISVs with 2 RTOs as drivers. Each squad will have 2 utility ISVs, which will eventually be modified to launch Mobile Long-Range Precision Strike Munitions, or MLRPSM. They're running out of acronyms over in the Army. To simplify it, this is a long-range heavy anti-tank guided missile. Program requirements include a range of at least 25 kilometers, and the ability to cover that 25 kilometers within 300 seconds, and with a high single hit kill probability on armor. Much more a purpose-built missile than quadcopter with RPG round taped to it. Armored vehicles have been shown to be able to withstand several hits from attack UAS, and that kind of uncertainty may not be desirable for certain targets. The non-line of sight variant of the Spike is the most hopeful contender, and I've been told in unrelated units like 3rd Infantry Division that they're integrating Spike into warfighter simulations. The current thinking is that 1 ISV could host at least 2 missiles. It's been shown that up to 8 Spike Enlos missiles can be mounted via palletized 2x2 modules on a JLTV or Tomcar TE6, so 2 can probably be taken as the bare minimum. In my little diagram, I photoshopped a Spike Enlos launcher configuration onto the ISV. Whether 1 ISV per squad will be a shooter while the other will carry reloads is hard to say, although the current guidelines call for an equal teaming of 1 team leader, 1 gunner, 1 assistant gunner, and 1 driver per ISV, all under a squad leader, implying equal capabilities. The operators are 11 Bravo infantrymen. Each squad will also carry a long-range Recon UAS, and 2 direct-fire missile systems as a backup, listed as either the Javelin or TOW. My wild guess is that if Spike Enlos goes through, this would be a Javelin. However, since Spike isn't fielded, I could see TOW Humvees being used as a surrogate, given over 20 IBCTs, many of them in the National Guard, are going to be converted into MBCTs almost immediately. There will likely be a period of time where they have Humvees, but not ISVs, and definitely not unfielded equipment. This is the case in multi-purpose companies where TOWs may be used as a Switchblade 600 or a lethal unmanned system surrogate, despite that requiring a Humvee instead of an ISV. Even the Greek army has these things fielded though, so I'm sure the US can figure it out. Moving on, the Brigade Tactical UAS Platoon is basically doubling in size. It's going to consist of 3 types of subunits: the Platoon HQ, Tactical UAS Section, and 3 Integration Sections. The HQ section is responsible for assisting brigade staff in managing, deconflicting, and coordinating airspace in the MBCT's area of operations. With every transformation proposal cramming UAS into all echelons, airspace management below the coordinating altitude is going to be a huge concern. The HQ consists of 1 officer, the platoon leader, 2 chief warrant officers, a UAS operations officer and airspace management officer, platoon sergeant, and tactical UAS operator. The UAS Operations Officer basically focuses on UAS mission planning and how things are going to get done, while the Airspace Management Officer makes sure the TUAS platoon's airspace requirements are known to the Brigade and they're integrated into the Brigade airspace plan. They have a utility ISV for their own mobility. The Tactical UAS section, meanwhile, operates the Brigade-level UAS. Similar to the Legacy Shadow units, it's split into a control element and launch and recovery element with heavier vehicles, including 2 utility ISVs with 3/4-ton trailers and 2 LMTV cargo trucks. They'll have 4 Brigade-level UAS platforms, the same number of Shadows the IBCT had. I'm told they've been testing the Textron Aerosonde in this role, which was a contender for the cancelled FT-UAS program that Brigade-level UAS replaced. It'll have a range of at least 30 kilometers and be issued in numbers to support continuous operation from 2 sites. The section includes 12 personnel, a TUAS sergeant, instructor operator, 7 operators, repair team chief, and 2 repairers. Lastly, the Tactical UAS integration sections are for operating the Infantry Battalion's own UAS. Each is an 11-man formation with 3 ISVUs, configured to be attached as 1 integration section per infantry battalion. Each section includes a UAS operations technician ranking Chief Warrant Officer, and 10 UAS operators. This includes the personnel to form 3 2-man teams to operate company-level UAS, such as the medium-range Recon drone, 4 personnel to operate battalion-level UAS housed in the multi-purpose company, and the warrant to assist in managing the battalion's airspace. In addition to providing trained operators, these sections are essentially going to be training teams teaching maneuver units how to use their UAS and advising commanders. Lastly in the company, the Brigade's Electromagnetic Warfare Platoon has basically tripled in size from 3 teams to 9. Each platoon consists of a small platoon HQ with a utility ISV, and 3 EW squads. Each of these squads in turn has 3 teams, a senior team with a senior team chief and 2 other teams. Each team has a team chief, EW sergeant, and EW specialist. Each team will be resourced with a terrestrial layer system or TLS manpack, which is capable of detecting and pinpointing enemy signals, and in some configurations, jam them and conduct other electronic attack. The senior team also has the much more substantial ISV-mounted 2's Eye. Generally, the EW platoon is configured so 1 EW squad can be attached to each infantry battalion, further allowing 1 EW team to be attached to each rifle company or task organized under the multi-purpose company. As the brigade usually retains a rifle company in reserve, this EW team or larger element could be task organized under the Recon platoon, which being deployed forward has a need for them. Now let's apply this organization to a tactical situation. I'm using a scenario provided to students by TRADOC. The mobile brigade is conducting a movement to contact to regain contact with an understrength enemy battalion. It's moving with 2 infantry battalions forward, traveling along parallel corridors, and 1 battalion in reserve. The MFRC is tasked with conducting route reconnaissance and area reconnaissance of 5 named areas of interest along the brigade's route to allow them to maintain their tempo and identify enemy reconnaissance assets early. Basically, figuring out what's ahead of the brigade and preventing ambushes. It's suspected that there may be an enemy company in a small village. This is NAI 5. Another key feature is a bridge along the southern battalion's route that crosses a river. This is NAI 2. Going sequentially, the MFRC commander assists the brigade in planning launch and recovery sites for their tactical UAS, both initially and sequential sites as the brigade advances. Initially, the tactical UAS platoon will surge 2 drones in the air. Surging basically means maximizing the number of aircraft up at once at the expense of round-the-clock coverage. These 2 drones will maintain surveillance of NAI 4 and 5, the village and adjacent road junction. Meanwhile, recon squads conduct route recon along the battalion's avenues of advance and a hasty area recon of NAI 2. Each squad has an EW team attached to it. At the bridge, the 2nd Squad's short-range recon drone spots an enemy recon section conducting overwatch. The squad requests a switchblade strike from the adjacent infantry battalion, likely the multi-purpose company conducting an advance guard. This destroys the enemy's armored vehicle, and the dismounts are destroyed by the scout squad's organic weapons. Meanwhile, up north, dismounted scouts in an SRR from 1st Squad also locates enemy recon. They call for fire from the mortar platoon of the adjacent infantry battalion, forcing the enemy recon element to displace. While moving, the enemy is then ambushed by the scout squad and they continue their route recon. It's possible that the use of mortars has tipped off enemy attack drones as to the location of mortar firing points, so the infantry battalion's multi-purpose company repositions its counter-UAS squad to interdict enemy UAS routes. At the same time, 3rd Squad conducts an infiltration using its ISVs to traverse concealed trails, with an SRR up to screen itself. This positions it to conduct an area reconnaissance of NAI-3. At this time, its attached EW team, in coordination with 2 others, triangulates signals that point to a probable enemy infantry platoon in ambush positions along a route. 3rd Squad visually confirms this with its SRR. Infantry battalion mortars are not in range, so they call on the missiles of an effects squad to eliminate them. The enemy signal is jammed by a concealed EW team, and the enemy platoon is rendered combat ineffective. From an article on the 2nd Brigade, 101st Airborne's MFRC, prolonged jamming is easily detected by enemy sensors, yet refraining from it solely out of fear of detection would be as short-sighted as suggesting engineers refrain from breaching a mined wire obstacle because they might be observed, or insisting that artillery never fire because enemy counter-battery radars will track it. Instead, this risk underscores the importance of fully integrating EW into the brigade's scheme of maneuver. As the brigade moves forward and clears the named areas of interest, Brigade UAS shifts to observe the village at NAI-5. When in range, Brigade UAS conducts a handoff of lighter targets to the infantry battalion's LRRs, while the Brigade UAS focuses on hard targets. If an enemy command post is located in a village with EW teams and UAS, the MFRC has the organic capabilities to find, fix, and finish it. Eventually, Brigade UAS identifies enemy armor in the vicinity of NAI-5. They feed targeting data to another effects squad, which fixes the enemy armor platoon with its long-range missiles and enables the infantry battalion's attack. This was just a sanitized version of a movement-to-contact scenario, but it illustrates the niche different subunits play. Notably, the MFRC lacks the mortar section of the Cav troop, and infantry mortars not being in range came up. Who knows if this will be identified as a problem in the future, but except for the pretty pricey effects of the effects platoon, the MFRC is lacking in close indirect fire capability. The guidelines I've seen lack both mortars and the one-way attack drones that rifle platoons get. Further, unlike the 101st Airborne Division's first MFRC concept using hunter-killer platoons, these guidelines lack organic Stinger and counter-UAS operators. Although I'm sure this could be a secondary duty of the scouts. The infantry battalions have them, but only 2 Stingers and 2 drone busters in the multi-purpose company. Such things can be alleviated with task organization of external supporting units, or their issue as reserve equipment. But either way, I suspect these are areas we may see some changes to in the future. A proposal coming out of 1-2 Striker BCT of the Striker MFRC also doesn't include mortars, although they ran with a mortar section task organized from a rifle company in Korea. The company commander posited that a mortar section could be task-orged to the MFRC from a rifle company in the future, although I say if it's not organic or tasked in direct support and having it would result in another unit not having it, Doctrine can't expect them to have it. Shout out to War Thunder again for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check out War Thunder now for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or on mobile, and use my links in the pinned comment or video description to register. Those who are new or haven't played in 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across PC and console, including multiple premium vehicles, in-game currency, and more. Stay tuned for future episodes in the MBCT series to learn about those units, and if you found this interesting, consider joining up over on Patreon. Viewer support now makes up the majority of Battle Order funding, and without them, this wouldn't be possible. Watch one of the exclusive videos, join one of the task forces, and chat in the Discord. I'll see you over there.